We begin here in Washington, where President Donald Trump's 24-hour timer has now expired, and the world watches as the United States has officially imposed a stunning 104% tariff on Chinese imports.
China's paying a 104% tariff. Think of it, 104%. Now, it sounds ridiculous, but they charged us for many items 100%, 125%. Until they make a deal with us, that's what it's going to be. I think they'll make a deal at some point. China will. They want to make a deal. They really do. They want to make a deal. They just don't know how to get it started because they're proud people.
China, however, is not backing down, calling the U.S. measures blackmail. Beijing vowed countermeasures, igniting fears of a long, painful trade war between the world's two largest economies.
美方仍在对中国滥施关税。
The U.S. side is still imposing extreme pressure on China by imposing tariffs indiscriminately. China firmly opposes and will never accept such arrogant and bullying behavior. If the U.S. really wants to solve the problem through dialogue and negotiations, it should show an attitude of equality, respect, and reciprocity.
In fact, Beijing hit back at Washington with an 84% retaliatory tariff on U.S. goods. And the Chinese Finance Ministry said that these additional tariffs will be imposed on goods from the U.S. beginning on April 10th. As this economic standoff escalates, global markets have stumbled and hard. The S&P 500, a key U.S. benchmark, has nosedived, shedding a staggering $5.8 trillion in market value since President Trump unveiled the tariffs on April 2nd, dubbed Liberation Day. And the pain is not just limited to the United States. After the president's import duties came into effect today, Japan's Nikkei tumbled 3.6%, while Taiwan's market plunged 4.6%. The Tokyo stock market price index traded at 3.4% lower, and the South Korean market also edged 1.74% lower as well. Now, even traditionally safe assets weren't spared. After the levies on 60 worst offending countries today, oil plunged as well. Brent fell 3.7% to $60.5, while U.S. crude dropped 4.1% to $57.16 per barrel. Meanwhile, gold regained some shine, rising to a little over $3,000 per ounce as a hedge against volatility. Globally, policymakers are scrambling. In fact, New Zealand and India cut interest rates, while South Korea unveiled emergency tax cuts and subsidies for automakers. Meanwhile, economists warn that the trade shock could spill into a global recession.
What we saw over the past week really is the biggest set of losses in such a short space of time since COVID, really, because you've had a sudden shock to the markets in a similar way to what you had 5 years ago. Suddenly there was the expectation of the shutdown of the global economy. Now you're facing potential global recession.
But the president is doubling down and not backing off. In fact, he described the tariffs as permanent, yet teased upcoming deals, hinting at possible negotiations with South Korea, Japan, and Italy.
In addition, we have a lot of countries coming to see us that want to make a deal, and we're doing things that nobody's ever even thought about.
Now, what began as a reciprocal trade move is snowballing into a global economic firestorm. Markets are reeling, governments are scrambling, and President Trump continues to signal more tariffs ahead. The world is holding its bated breath, and what comes next could change the shape of global trade forever.
Greeting you with aloha and namaste.
I love India.
Presence, occupation of a territory by another country pertains to India. What we saw in Kashmir.
The Prime Minister Modi. How do you see Trump's America?
Yes, the current administration behaves differently from the previous administration.
Are you saying that there are foreign powers who are trying to bring down the current government in Syria?
Exactly.
Bluntly, Iran, maybe Russia too.
Prime Minister Modi committed to South-South, cooperation.
Not over 50%.
Is Ukraine prepared to pay the price for that peace?
No compromises at the cost of territorial integrity and sovereignty.